morning, everybody. Welcome to church. Let's stand up as we sing.
The atmosphere is changing now, for the Spirit of the Lord is here. The evidence is all around that the Spirit of the Lord is here. The atmosphere is changing now, for the Spirit of the Lord is here. The evidence is all around that the Spirit of the Lord is here. Overflow in this place. Fill our hearts with your love. Your love surrounds us. You're the reason we came to encounter your love. Your love surrounds us. Overflow in this place. Fill our hearts with your love. Your love surrounds us. You're the reason we came to encounter your love. Your love surrounds us. Surrounded by your love, Jesus. We need your love. We need your love. Spirit of God, fall fresh on us. We need your presence. Your kingdom come, your will be done here as in heaven. Spirit of God, fall fresh on us. We need your presence. Your kingdom come, your will be done here as in miracle can happen now. For the Spirit of the Lord is here. The evidence is all around that the Spirit of the Lord is here.
Amen. That's our prayer today. That God's will would be done here on earth as it is in heaven. And that we would be filled with God's love, so much so that it would spill out into how we love the people here on earth around us. And this next song is just full of God's promises. That He's peace in every storm. That He's strength when we're weak. And that God is with us and He's for us. So let's keep that in our hearts as we sing this next one. This promise points me on my failure, and there is a still voice to silence all my fears. Even the worst of my mistakes are miracles in the making. Miracles in the making. Let's sing. By your stripes I am healed. With one touch I am made whole. You have spoken, and I know that it is so. In the storm you are peace, and your love won't let me go. You have spoken, and I know that it is so. the storm. You are peace, and your love won't let me go. You have spoken, and I know that it is so. You have spoken, and I know that it is
See, for some of us, I think we need to be reminded, God can do more than you can do. God can do more than you can do. God can do more than you can do in your family. God can do more than you can in your marriage. God can do more than you can with your kids. God can do more than you can do in your neighborhood. God can do more than you can do in your job. And see, for some of you today, what God wants you to do is, you've been fighting this battle, you've been facing this situation on your own, and today's the day you look up and say, God, I acknowledge it. You can do more than I can do. Here it is. You take it.
Beginning of this chapter in the history of Southside Church probably happened at Camp Stillwood back in 2006. This was way before Corinne and I came on staff, and we were on the leadership team, and there was a meeting. And one of the people at the meeting was Phil Adams. And I just remember Phil Adams saying, guys, I think we need a building. Now keep in mind, by the way, that at that time, Phil Adams was basically the setup team and the takedown team and the sound team all by himself. So he says, I really think that we need a building, that we can grow and that we can really impact this city with a building. And there was like this sense of silence, and then all these opposing voices came against him. And at that moment, I remember supporting Phil's idea, never having a clue that one day I would be the lead pastor at Southside Church. But that seed stayed with me.
So I really felt that the Lord was leading us to move towards a building. And I made mention of that in our leadership meeting. That was discussed and pretty much left at that point. Not a lot of action was put in place or an action plan put in place. But I did feel that God was saying that it was the time to begin to pursue it and to begin to take steps towards moving into a permanent home for Southside Church.
Now fast forward to 2014, and I'm the lead pastor of the church. And I remember Corinne and I looking around, and we were growing like crazy, and our impact was increasing week by week. And that moment from Camp Stillwood in 2006 came back to me. And I realized, man, we gotta build a building. We got to put our foot down in the city. We got to make a statement that says we're not just here to make an impact for this generation, but for generations to come. We weren't yet ready to buy land and build a building, but we knew we needed to start moving towards it. So we launched the Bold campaign. And the Bold campaign is hilarious because I remember like 3 weeks in, I'm sitting in my office and I'm trying to think to myself, like if I had to boil down the message of the Bold campaign, what would it be? And here it was. We need to build something, somewhere, sometime. And I'm wondering, is anyone even going to respond?
I believe by taking our next step to getting a full-time facility, we'll be putting a stake in the ground in this city. And here's what we're saying. That this gift that God has given us, this mission, this ability that we have to reach out to the so-called unreachable, it's not just for our generation. It's for your kids. It's for their kids. It's for their children. That for generations to come, that the rebels and the write-offs and the black sheep and the people burnt out on religion can come somewhere and find out that they're not made right with God by rules and regulations, but through a relationship with the Son of God who loves them so much that he died for them.
So a staff of 12 families, we all came together to pledge what we were going to give over and above our regular giving to this campaign over 2 years. So our staff is young and old, families, single people, none of us overly wealthy by any means. We were just a group of ordinary world changers. And that night, we pledged to give $210,000 over 2 years. And right then, I knew that our vision was aligned with God's heart. It wasn't just something that we wanted. At that moment, I knew it was something that God wanted. Because I knew that if our staff was this bought in, everyone else who called Southside Church home would be too. And so we walked into the Bold Commitment Sunday with incredible expectation.
Courage is never the absence of fear. It's the ability to banish it. The willingness to banish it. Being bold doesn't mean you never have doubts. But being bold means that you get back up, you take your next step, and you banish the doubts that are trying to hold you back.
$1.5 million. And that was pledged by 203 families. Man, we could not believe it, because our goal for Bold was actually $1 million. And so to have $500,000 pledged over our initial goal really was a sign that God was up to something. We knew God had land in mind for us. Now we just had to go and find it. And in 2018, we started building a relationship with the Hull family. And in June of 2019, we purchased the land in partnership with the Hulls and Chackton First Nation, where our facility now exists.
Once, we'd had the presentations from Dave and his team, and we had our family sessions to discuss it and look at, whether this was, first of all, something that we should even entertain and move forward with, and kind of the description of the buildings and how it was going to be operated, and the focus on family life and the importance of, a lot of things that were not necessarily just for religion, but basically a way of life. And I thought that was really good, and my family, along with me, were very supportive of that. They believed in that approach. I was, talking to the chief as well, and I said, this is a very, in my opinion, a different organization.
Okay, so now the vision started to sharpen. We had a piece of land, and we were beginning the process of building the first full-time home in the history of Southside Church. But we were asking ourselves, what is this process going to look like? See, because I think there's a temptation when you're building the first facility in the history of your church to make the facility the point. And we wanted to establish right from the very beginning that this building, it's beautiful, but it's not the point. And so we came up with a goal, which was called the More Expanded Vision, that over the course of 2 years, it wasn't just about building a building. We wanted to bring more help, more hope, and more home to our city and to our world. But what we didn't know when we set that goal of $6 million is that God was already beginning to speak into the hearts and lives of Southsider after Southsider after Southsider after Southsider. God had a different idea.
I just hope that all of you know the spiritual significance in what happened today. You unclench your fists today. And he's been trying to feel your hands, but he hasn't been able to because he can't feel clenched fists. So what's happened here is amazing as a family, as a church, and what God wants to do in our city, but it's also amazing for what's going to happen in each and every one of your lives. Like we call this campaign More, like he wants to give more of himself to each and every one of us. And that's what happened here today.
After our church pledged $6.5 million, this enabled us to start construction on our first ever facility. I'll actually never forget hundreds of us coming together and walking the few blocks from Sardis Secondary, where we had held church for 23 years, to our future home to break ground for the first time. So we were back on track. And almost a year later, at our 1 year more anniversary, we had new Southsiders join into the vision and elevate our commitment from $6.5 million to $6.8 million. And we were continuing to grow, continuing to take steps forward. And then 3 weeks later, COVID hit. And the world stopped in its tracks.
China has identified the cause of the mysterious new virus. Coronavirus.
There are fears a rapidly spreading virus has reached Australia.
This is a rapidly emerging situation.
There is not a cause for alarm.
The first US case has been detected.
There's confirmation the coronavirus has reached Australia.
China is urging its citizens not to travel abroad as it struggles to contain the virus.
Foreign nationals coming from China are now banned from entering the country.
So when COVID first hit, I actually remember not being that worried. I just kind of assumed that it would be a couple week-long thing. And if I'm completely honest, our church staff and our church in general were very resilient, were very resourceful, and I figured we would just roll with the punches and everything would be okay. And then the weeks turned into months, and the months turned into a year or more. And I remember looking back now, there were times when I was really, really worried. I didn't know what was gonna happen next, but now I can just see so clearly the faithfulness of God and the faithfulness of our church. Our church just stepped up to the plate over and over and over again, just asking how they could help, how they could be a part of what God was doing in and through us.
But what we began to notice week after week and month after month is God had a plan in all of it. One of the first things that God showed us is that we weren't going to focus on what we can't do, but instead we were just going to keep asking ourselves, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? And what we found is when it comes to the people of Southside Church, we can do a lot. And the people of this church, the people of this family, of this mission, kept believing, kept sacrificing, kept praying, kept giving, kept serving, kept asking themselves, what can we do? In a world that desperately needs help, hope, and home, what can we do?
And on May 2nd, 2021, we announced the final total amount of funds that had come in for our expanded vision called More. $11.3 million. We didn't just meet our goal. God moved and we nearly doubled it. And here we are, poised and ready to be the church, the light that God has called us to be. And the craziest part is that this is only the beginning. Even after all we've seen thus far, we have never been more confident the best is yet to come.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the official grand opening Sunday of Southside Church. This is super exciting. I am so honored and privileged to be here with you today. My name is Leah, and I am on staff here, and I've been a part of Southside for years and years and years now, and it has been such an amazing opportunity. It's been such an adventure. It's been so cool just to watch and be a part of what God is doing in and through this group of what Corinne called ordinary world changers. So it's an honor to stand here with you today. But I know a lot of you actually haven't been here for years and years and years. Maybe you started watching Southside online during COVID, or maybe this is your very, very first Sunday with us, whether you're watching online or joining us in person. And I just want to say on behalf of every single person that calls Southside Church home, welcome here. It doesn't matter where you're at with life, with God, with faith. You are so welcome here. We love that you're here, and we really hope that you feel at home. So if you are new or newish to Southside, we would also love to connect with you. All you have to do is just text the keyword hello to our phone number. It's 604-670-3040. It's gonna be up on the screens there. You're gonna hear that phone number a lot, but if you text hello, you're gonna get a link back to a digital connections card. And it just gives you an opportunity to ask us any questions you might have, and we'll also send you a $5 Starbucks e-card on us, just as a way of saying we are so glad that you spent your Sunday morning here with us today. So we know for sure that there's lots of new people with us this morning, but we also know there's lots of people here and you're new to faith. You might be one of those people that put your hand up in the past few weeks and months to ask Jesus into your heart. And we've been thinking about that a lot, how there's so many people here that are either new to our church or new to faith. And so we've come up with something just for you, and it's called Southside 101. And what it is it's a 3-week group that is launching next week after the 11 a.m. service, and there's childcare provided, and it's gonna be absolutely incredible. Basically, it's a group designed to answer your questions. I've talked to lots of people who are new to kind of their faith journey, and everyone always has so many questions, but they always assume that their questions are dumb or stupid, but your questions aren't dumb and they're not stupid, and we want to answer them as best as we can in Southside 101. Or you might be new to Southside and you might have questions like, what does Southside value? What can I expect here? How can I get connected? How can I serve? And that's also what Southside 101 is going to be about. We want to be a group that really expedites the process of you going from, I am new here at Southside, to I am a part of Southside Church. I'm connected here. I'm growing here. So that is Southside 101 next week. If you want more details, you can just text 101 to our phone number again, 604-670-3040, and we would love to get you those details. So also, it is September, and with September comes lots of new things. Tomorrow we're launching young adults, which is super exciting. So 18 to 30-year-olds, young adults is tomorrow. We have junior high youth starting, senior high youth starting. We have events and programs and service days. And honestly, it's a lot to remember. It's a lot to have in your mind. So we have created a one-stop shop for you. All you have to do is just text the keyword again. I told you I was going to say the phone number a lot, to 604-670-3040. You're going to get a link to our website, and there's a new page there which basically has everything that's up and coming in the fall, and you can click on everything that's happening and see all the details. So if you're wondering about anything that's launching in the fall, it's going to be there for you. Just text news. Last thing, in the front of your seats, or behind in the back of the seats in front of you, or beside you kind of on the bottom on the risers, there's these little cards there for you. And basically what they are, they just explain what you can expect here on a Sunday morning. So it talks about our kids program. If you are a mom of a little one or a dad of a little one, it talks about a nursing mom's room where you can go with your kids if they need a little bit of a break. And there's lots of other stuff on there. There's details that I already covered that you might have missed because I'm talking really fast and saying a lot of things to you. It's all on that card there just for you. So at this point in the service, we also like to take some time to give together. It's super cool watching that video. I'm so proud to say that we are such a generous church. We're generous because we want to obey God. In the Bible, God says that every single thing that we have from him, including our finances, it's all a gift from him. But he also promises us that when we give back, when we give to his church, we will be blessed in ways that we can't even imagine. And so we give out of obedience because we want to honor God, but we also give because it's an opportunity. We really get to. And Southside Church funds so many amazing initiatives and programs. From our Haiti Free School, you might not know about it. We have a school that we fund in Haiti, and we support students from kindergarten all the way to grade 12. We have scholarships for students to go to university. And we also support a lot of local partnerships here, like Pearl. It's an organization in Chilliwack that works to free women from sex trafficking. And there's just so much happening. And so when you give here at Southside, you're just a small part of amazing, impactful stories that are playing out. And so thank you for giving. And if you want to give for the first time or just give at all today, you can just text the keyword give to our phone number again, 604-670-3040. All right, so we have an amazing message planned from our lead pastor, Pastor Mike. We're so glad he's back. So after this little video bumper plays and the lights go up, why don't you give him a warm Southside welcome?
Well. Youth up front, that's awesome. September 12th, 2021, I can absolutely tell you that I am so glad to be here in this place with you today. Now, whether you're here for the first time or the 400th, whether you're joining us online or in person, I want to tell you it's an honor and a privilege to spend some time today talking about where we've come from, where we are, but most importantly, where we go from here. See, it's all about timing. Some people say that timing is everything. Remember when I had finished my third year at Red Deer College in Red Deer, Alberta. In the interest of full disclosure, I should say this, it took me 3 years to get 2 years worth of credits at Red Deer College in Red Deer, Alberta. Partly because I switched majors from political science to history, but mostly because I was a terrible student. I remember one night walking late again into my English class. The professor was reading an excerpt from Shakespeare. I don't remember what part of Shakespeare, but she was reading it. And when I walked in late, yet again, she looked up from Shakespeare, saw me walking through the door, and at the top of her lungs said this, "Get behind me, Satan." Okay, so I think that kind of summarized the frustrations that some of my professors felt towards me, this kid with all the ability, but none of the focus and work ethic to carry it out. But anyways, I just finished my third year at Red Deer College, got 2 years worth of credits. Third year at Red Deer College in Red Deer, Alberta. My plan was that September I was going to go continue my education at Trinity Western University in Langley. But in between that, I got a summer job. And I worked for the Alberta provincial government at a large government institution, and I was on the grounds crew. And I remember one particular morning, I was walking down the sidewalk on my way to go trim some hedges. And walking the other way was this girl about my age, and she was incredibly beautiful. And so I looked at her, and she was looking at me. I think she might have been mesmerized by my mullet, okay? But I'm looking at her, and she's looking at me. I mean, it's a moment we're having, right? So I'm looking, and she's looking, and I'm looking, and she's looking, and we're looking, and it's a moment. Like if you would have come to me 2 months later and said, "Hey, remember that time on the sidewalk?" I would have said, "Yes, I do." And I would have known exactly what time on the sidewalk. If you would have said, "Remember Sidewalk Girl?" I would have said, "Yes, I remember Sidewalk Girl." Now fast forward 3 months. I leave Red Deer, Alberta. I come across the Rocky Mountains to Langley, BC. I'm at Trinity Western University. On my second day at Trinity Western University, my dorm, the leaders of my dorm, tell me that we're going to take a girls' dorm out for a dorm date. I had no idea what a dorm date was. They said, "Okay, look it, you have a car, so here's what you're going to do. You're just going to go down to the parking lot, you and your roommate, and you're going to find a couple of girls." This doesn't sound real great, but anyways, this was a few years ago, okay? And you're going to say, "Hey, you're going to take them to this place." Don't remember what that place was. What I do remember, however, is standing there with my roommate and walking across the parking lot was, now, keep in mind, let me reiterate again. I had moved from Red Deer, Alberta to Langley, BC, across the Rocky Mountains. Okay? Had this moment on the sidewalk in Red Deer, Alberta, but now I'm in Langley, BC. Make sense? Okay, so I'm standing there grabbing a couple girls, because that's great. Okay, so, and walking across the parking lot is Sidewalk Girl. Sidewalk Girl is walking across the parking lot. And my roommate walks up to her and her friend and says, "Hey, you guys want to ride?" And they say yes. And Sidewalk Girl starts to walk towards me. And I got a hat on backwards. She takes my hat off. She rips it off. She says, "You're the guy from the sidewalk." And I remembered her, but for some reason, I still don't know why, I pretended I didn't. She's like, "You're the guy from the sidewalk." I'm like, "Sidewalk? What do you mean?" That was Corinne. And she's my wife. And part of it is timing. See, some people say that timing is everything. Maybe you can relate a little bit there. You can think of a moment in your life where it was just the right time and the right place. Or maybe you remember the opposite, wrong time, wrong place. They say that timing is everything. I'm not entirely sure that timing is everything, but for someone who's spent my life studying history, I will tell you this, timing is a lot. Timing is a lot. One of my favorite moments from history involves timing. It's called the miracle of Dunkirk. And it took place in the early summer of 1940, but to really understand the miracle of Dunkirk, I got to go back into the 1930s with you. See, in Germany in the 1930s, the Nazi Party, led by Adolf Hitler, had seized control of power. Now, the Nazis, led by Hitler, are among the most bloodthirsty, sadistic, violent, and evil regimes in all of human history. Their goal was world domination. And throughout the 1930s, they began building towards that goal. Until in 1938, Hitler annexed Austria and part of Czechoslovakia. And then in 1939, Hitler took the rest of Czechoslovakia. He signed alliances with Mussolini's Italy and Stalin's Soviet Union. In September of 1939, Hitler invaded Poland. The Allies declared war, and that was the official beginning of World War II. After defeating Poland, though, Hitler called a timeout. He stopped. He stopped throughout the winter of late 1939 and early 1940 until in April of 1940,
Hitler unleashed on the world something called Blitzkrieg. It's a German word meaning lightning war. It was a direct response to and opposition to the trench warfare of World War I. See, in World War I, the two sides were just facing each other in this system of trenches, and the generals would send soldiers over the top of the trenches, tens of thousands of them. It was a slow-moving battle of attrition. The grisly truth of World War I is that the war was really won by the side that didn't run out of soldiers. So in World War II, Hitler decided, we're not going down that road again. It was a direct response to trench warfare. Lightning War, or Blitzkrieg, was a fast-moving infantry supported by mobilized artillery and tanks and dive bombers. And it was meant to punch a hole through enemy lines, outflank them, and then encircle them, where a small, well-equipped army could actually defeat a much larger army. And the world in early 1940 was not ready for Blitzkrieg. Hitler defeated Denmark and Norway. He defeated Holland and Belgium. And then on May 16th, 1940, Hitler circumvented the Maginot Line and entered into France. Same scenario played out. Punched through the enemy lines, outflanked the Allied forces, and began to encircle them. Except for this time, the stakes were high. Hitler had encircled 350,000 Allied soldiers. And they were on the run. They had the German army behind them, and they ran until finally they ran into a town in France called Dunkirk. The German army behind them, the English Channel in front of them, no place to go. Now, I think it's worth noting that your life and my life, in some ways, hung in the balance in May of 1940 in Dunkirk, France. Because if those 350 soldiers would have been beaten, would have been eliminated from the war, Hitler would have taken France quickly, taken England, and it's doubtful that he could have been stopped. Our way of life, our very lives, hung in the balance in Dunkirk, France. On May the 26th of 1940, King George VI of England called the people of England and the entire British Commonwealth to a national day of prayer. He said, let's gather together and let's pray that our soldiers would make it home. Let's pray that our country would survive. Let's pray that freedom would prevail. And by the millions, people all over the globe responded to his call, and they prayed. We have a picture from that day. Those are people lined out outside of Westminster Abbey. They're there to pray that their boys would make it home, that their nation would survive, and that freedom would actually prevail. And yet the next day, the news was bad. German high command sent a message to Hitler. It said this: the British army is encircled. We proceed to its annihilation. 350,000 troops trapped on the beaches of Dunkirk, France, most of them British. The Prime Minister of England at the time, his name was Winston Churchill. And he came up with one of the most unorthodox, desperate plans in military history. He said, we're going to send ships and boats, every boat and every ship in all of England across the English Channel to pick these soldiers up. 34 kilometers across the English Channel, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Privately, Churchill said to his advisors, we'll be lucky if we get 20,000 troops rescued out of the 350,000 trapped. He called it Operation Dynamo. But Operation Dynamo turned into the miracle of Dunkirk because of timing. 3 things happened. Number 1, inexplicably, Hitler decided to stop his advance 15 kilometers from Dunkirk. The German generals are pleading with Hitler, let's finish what we started, let's keep advancing, let's eliminate these 350,000 soldiers, but Hitler stopped. And the 350,000 soldiers trapped at Dunkirk were able to organize themselves and prepare to possibly be rescued. Secondly, at just that time, a fierce storm blew up inland in France, so fierce, in fact, that the German Air Force could not take off. Had the German Air Force been able to take off, the rescue at Dunkirk would have been a shooting gallery for a German Air Force who held clear air superiority at this time. And thirdly, and maybe most importantly, while there was a fierce storm raging inland in France, the English Channel was like glass, clearer than anyone can ever remember it. And so these fishing boats and sailboats and pleasure craft started going back and forth from England to France, and back to England, and back to France, and back to England, and the 350,000 soldiers trapped at Dunkirk were rescued. Sometimes the ship was only big for 2 or 3 or 10, and at the end of it, 338,000 soldiers were rescued. They lived to fight another day. They made it home. England survived and freedom prevailed. The Bishop of Chelmsford, Dr. H.A. Wilson, said this: "If ever a great nation was on the point of supreme and final disaster, and yet was saved and reinstated, it was ourselves. It does not require an exceptionally religious mind to detect in all of this the hand of God." Translation: God has a sense of timing. God has a sense of timing. Ecclesiastes 3 verse 1 says it this way: "Everything that happens in this world happens at the time God chooses." So here we are, September 12th, 2021, and what I want to suggest to you is that this is the right time and this is the right place, that it's no accident that my path would cross your path today. Timing might not be everything, but it sure is a lot, isn't it? Like, just imagine I'm walking down the sidewalk and there's Sidewalk Girl, but what if she would have chosen to walk down the sidewalk 5 minutes later? Or I'm standing in a parking lot and Sidewalk Girl comes walking by, but what if she didn't? And what if some other jerk in some other car would have invited her and her roommate to drive with them? What if Hitler wouldn't have decided to stop? What if that storm would have raged 2 days earlier or 2 days later? What if the English Channel wouldn't have been smooth? See, timing is a lot. And what I want to suggest to you is that it was God's plan that you and me would be here in this place on September 12th, 2021, that it's no accident. I remember 10 years ago, we got together as a leadership at Southside Church, and we started asking this really simple question: why does Southside Church exist? Why does Southside Church exist? And we had like all sorts of great little reasons, but I was really looking for like one big overarching reason that really encapsulated why does Southside Church exist. And we met about it and we talked about it and we prayed about it. And I remember one time I was sitting in my office. Why does Southside Church exist? Why does Southside Church exist? And I changed the question just a little bit. I changed it to ask myself this: what are we here for? What is this church here for? And as soon as I changed the question, I knew the answer. What are we here for? Oh, we're here for the city. We're here for every boy and every girl, every man and every woman, every family, all our friends and our coworkers and our neighbors and our colleagues and our classmates. We're here to bring hope and help and home to the city. And as soon as we realized that we're here for the city, we knew what we needed to do. We knew that we needed to build a building. We knew that we needed to put roots down in the city. 10 years ago, we were not ready to take a big step, but we began to take a series of little steps. The first one that I can really clearly remember was this thing called Game Changer. Game Changer was when we bought ourselves a helicopter hangar. Okay, and that helicopter hangar was there. We called it the hangar, and it was there to host our midweek services, our midweek events, and our staff. And we didn't have any kind of fancy capital campaign or anything like that. I just remember standing on the stage one Sunday and saying, "Hey, I got some news just before we close today. We really need $280,000. That was my glamorous pitch, you know. We could really use $280,000. And then it got even more fun, because on Monday I came into work and our finance team said, "Hey, it turns out we don't really need $280,000. We actually need $320,000. So the next Sunday I came on stage and said, "You'll never guess what happened. Remember how I said we need I meant $320. Isn't that hilarious?" I didn't find it super hilarious as I was saying it, but it turns out that it was perfect timing. because the people of Southside responded with sacrificial generosity. And then I remember a few years after that, we launched this thing called the Bold campaign. The Bold campaign. We already talked a little bit about it in the video. But it was funny because, when you do like a capital campaign, it's really great to be able to show people a piece of land. Like, this is the land that we want to build on. Or a blueprint for a building. This is a building we're going to build. But we weren't ready for that. So Bold was kind of standing up on a stage and saying, I got this vision. Let me try to make it clear. Journey with me, if you will. We're going to build something, somewhere, sometime. That's as specific as it got. But the timing was perfect because the people of Southside responded with sacrificial generosity. And we took another little step towards September 12th, 2021. And then the More campaign. And again, the people of Southside responded with sacrificial generosity. And we began construction late 2019. And the timing, again, was perfect. Let me put it this way. If we had waited 1 or 2 months to begin construction on this building, our cost would have been 1.5 times minimum higher. If we had waited 1 or 2 months to begin construction on this building, there's a really good chance that with all the delays that were experienced all throughout the construction industry, we wouldn't be done to this day. But we're here, and I believe that it's perfect timing. I believe that you and me, we're supposed to be here today, that our paths are supposed to cross today. September 12th, 2021 is a time that we look back and say, what just happened over these last 2 years? No, that's not even accurate. That's not even accurate. I remember months ago planning this moment, planning this day when we could get together into this building. I remember thinking to myself that on that day, we would be able to ask ourselves, what just happened? But on September 12, 2021, we would really love to be asking what just happened, wouldn't we? But the truth is, here's what we're asking. What is happening? It's still a world full of challenges. It's still a world full of pain. It's still a world full of hurt. What's happening? What just happened? But I think the question that you and me are supposed to answer, I think the question that you and me are here together, that our paths would cross today, I think the question that you and me have to answer today is this. Where do we go from here? How do we move forward? In light of everything that has happened, in light of everything that is happening, how do we move forward? See, I think that's a good question. So first of all, I want to suggest to you this. Number one, I think we move forward with help. I think we move forward with help. Let me put it this way, and then I'll explain. I think we need to come to a point individually and collectively that we make this decision. And it sounds really glib, but it's huge. That we're going to make a decision for you and me. That we're going to decide that we're going to be a people. We're going to be individuals. We're going to be individuals. We're going to be a church that decides that we're going to be lending, extending a helping hand rather than raising an angry fist. That we're going to be a people who extend a helping hand rather than raise an angry fist. That's going to be us. Well, neato, Mike. It's really, really great. It's really easy to say that from this stage, but it's really, really hard to do. So I want to talk about that for a second. How can we be a people who choose to extend a helping hand rather than raise an angry fist? I think we need two things. I think number one, we need humility. Number two, we need generosity. We need humility and we need generosity. Let's talk about humility for a second. It's been quite a 2 years. It is quite a 2 years. And whether you know it or not, I know something that's true about you. To one degree or another, you're hurting. And if we're going to decide that we're going to be a people who move forward with help, that we're going to extend a helping hand rather than raise an angry fist, number one, we need the humility, listen, to ask for help. See, I see hurt manifesting everywhere I look in our culture today. I see it manifesting as anxiety. And we're so fearful. I talked to a friend the other day. He says, man, I've gained a lot of weight during COVID. I'm like, oh, so what? Who cares? It doesn't matter. He's like, oh, it matters. I know I'm not healthy. I said, oh, okay. Well, that's okay. Let's come up with a plan. You can lose the weight. It's going to be fine. He says, I can't. I said, I don't know what you mean. Like, first of all, you say to me, I've gained a bunch of weight over COVID, and it's bad for me. And I tell you, well, let's lose it, and then you don't want to. He says, I can't. He said, I've started overeating to numb my anxiety, and I can't stop. Because if I stop overeating, I'm going to have to face my anxiety again, and I don't want to. I talked to a guy in the gym the other day. I said, how are you, man? He says, I'm not good. I said, what do you mean? He says, I'm so anxious. He said, I'm sleeping about 1.5, 2 hours a night, that's it. He said, you know what's weird? He said, before I got clean and sober, I never felt anxious. Like, there's people all around this room today, watching online today, and we're getting lost in our anxiety. And I think anxiety took place before. I think anxiety was a challenge that we had before, but I think anxiety is a big deal now. You know why? Because COVID has stripped away the illusion of control. Like, before COVID, I could maybe walk through my life and go, it's going to be okay because I'm going to look after me. I got control of this. It's going to be fine. But somewhere in these last 2 years, all of that has been stripped away. And there's this feeling of out of control, and people are getting lost in their anxiety. Number two, I see people getting lost in their anger. Man, oh man, do we fight about a lot of stuff. Have you noticed this? Everyone's mad at everybody else. What do we fight about? We fight about climate. Nice day. What are you trying to say? We fight about politics. We fight about masks. We fight about vaccines. We fight about passports. We fight about everything. And so you got these people, and they're just angry. And then we get lost in our anger. And here's the root, by the way. Here's the root. This is what no one realizes. This is what no one's talking about. You know why everyone's angry? Because we're hurting. Hurting people hurt people. And I think we got to come to our, it's great to stand up here and go, hey, we need to be a church. Extend a helping hand. Don't raise an angry fist. Cool, Mike. But if we don't get to the point where we're humble enough to go, you know what? I need help. I'm lost in my anxiety. I'm lost in my anger. Somebody help me. We have nothing to offer anyone. It's got to start with humility. There's people lost in their anxiety. There's people lost in their anger. And there's people who are lost in their isolation. I remember when COVID first hit and the lockdowns and the quarantines first hit, I had a lot of people in my life who said this about lockdowns. You have anyone like that in your life? Man, I love COVID. I don't have to talk to anybody. It's awesome. I was made for this. Oh, you introverts. But now it's getting a little much, right? And I think there's a lot of people out there right now that are going, man, like, how do I even have relationships now? How do I put myself out there? My 2-year-old grandson. Did I mention I had a grandson? Like, a couple months ago was the first time he ever checked into Southside Kids, and he was freaked out. It's brand new. And I think that's a decent illustration for our entire culture right now. Like, how do I do this? Because we actually need each other, right? Like, if I'm going to ask for help, if I'm going to extend help to others, I need some others. But I look around our world today and I see the hurt, and it's manifest this way. People lost in their anxiety, people lost in their anger, and people lost in their isolation. I implore you, we need to get humble first. And we need to be people, we need to be men and women, boys and girls who come to the point in our lives where we can just say this, I need some help, I'm hurting. And then we can extend a helping hand. One of the things that we've always said at Southside is this, that we can't fix everything, but we always want to be able to try to do something. We can't help everyone, but we can help someone, that person that God places in our life individually, or that group of people that God places in our lives as a church. And here's what's amazing. It's like this virtuous cycle. If I'm lost in my anxiety, if I'm lost in my anger, if I'm lost in my isolation, one of the greatest things that I can do for myself to step out of that is what? Help others. And when I live a life where I'm helping others, guess what happens? All of a sudden, I'm more able to go, hey, I could use some help. And when I humble myself and I ask for help, I'm more likely to extend it to others, and it's a virtuous cycle. So how are you and me going to move forward individually? How are we going to move forward collectively? Number one, we're going to move forward with help. We're going to decide that no matter what happens, we're going to be people who choose to extend a helping hand rather than raise an angry fist. And it's going to take the humility to ask for help and the generosity to extend it. Secondly, we're going to move forward with home. That doesn't make any sense grammatically. We're going to move forward with home. When I say home, here's what I mean. I mean connection. I mean acceptance. I mean belonging. It's an outrage culture. They call this culture an outrage culture. And I think there's part of us, we're scared to say anything wrong, because if we do, we're going to be canceled. And so we got all these people, and it's like we can agree on 100 topics, but if we hit 101 and we don't agree, we're angry. And we part ways. It's amazing, though, because when you read the Bible, God describes one of the illustrations, one of the analogies that God uses for the church is a family. We're family. And when you walk in this building, I hope you notice, like this place was built to be a family home. Every square inch of it. But yet for so many of us, we're just living in our feelings. Do you understand that? Like as I talk about the fact that people are lost in their anxiety. Can we stop there for a second? There are people all over this world lost in their anxiety, and they're fearful, right? Think about this. What are they fearful of? Here's the tragedy. Mostly, they're fearful of other people. Or we say there's people angry all over the place. They're lost in their anger. What are they angry about? They're not angry about the fact that their lawn died over summer. Although I am a little angry. I don't know what happened to my lawn this summer. It's a nightmare. I'm terrible at that stuff. But mostly, what are people angry at? Other people. We talk about isolation. Well, people are isolated from others. So here's what you need to know, that your feelings are being monetized. Your feelings are being monetized. Listen to me. Your feelings are being monetized. When you're fearful of other people, there are people that make money off of your fear of other people, right? When you're angry at other people, that's being fed, because there's people who make money off of your anger at other people. And so I stand up here and I say, this is a home. This is a home. This is a place of belonging. This is a place of acceptance. This is a place of love. This is a place of unconditional family. But when I get on my feelings, I look at you and I go, whoa, wait a minute. You don't believe what I believe. You don't talk like I talk. You don't vote like I vote. You don't look like I look. You don't think like I think. And I think on September 12th, 2021, when we're on that diatribe, you don't vote like me. You don't look like me. You don't act like me. You don't think like me. God would say this, enough. 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 Your family. And family trumps feelings. We got to make a decision, man. How are we going to move forward? We got to move forward with help. That we're going to be a people, we're going to be a church, we're going to be individuals who choose to extend a helping hand rather than raise an angry fist. And we need the humility to ask for help and the generosity to extend it. But number two, we're going to move forward with home. We're going to stop focusing on everything that could potentially divide us and start looking at all the things that could unite us, because family trumps feelings. So how are we going to move forward? With help, with home, and finally with hope. Romans 5 says it this way. You see, at just the right time. At just the right time. Timing's a lot, right? At just the right time, when we were still powerless, Christ died for the ungodly. Very rarely will anyone die for a righteous person, though for a good person, someone might possibly dare to die. But God demonstrates his own love for us in this. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us at just the right time. Hope, hope. How are we going to move forward? Well, we need help, we need home, but without hope, we ain't going anywhere. Experts say you can live for 40 days without food, 3 days without water, 8 minutes without air. You can't live a second without hope. How are we going to move forward? We can't move forward without hope. So let me tell you, first of all, I'm proud of you. And it's been quite a 2 years, hasn't it? It is quite a 2 years, isn't it? And you're still here. Whether you're online or in person, I want to let you know I'm proud of you. But if you're anything like me, there's been some times, maybe you're there right now, where you feel like you're running a little bit short on hope. And that's why I stand here today and I want to tell you something. That hope has a name, and his name is Jesus. That Jesus stands alone among every worldview and every religion and all of human history. You need to hear this from me today. Because every worldview and every religion and all of human history says this, man, you want hope? Reach for it. Earn it. You want salvation? Reach for it. You want forgiveness? Reach for it. You want to find God? Reach for him. And there's all sorts of different ways of reaching, right? The first is like moralism. I just got to be a good person. I got to be a good person. How's that working for you? Hope it's working better for you than it is for me. Because this thought in the back of my head, no matter how hard I try to be a good person, I always think to myself, man, I'm not quite good enough. And for some people, it's religion. And it's rules and regulation and reputation. But the problem with religion is it always leaves you feeling, I haven't quite done enough. And for some people, it's just materialism, right? What's salvation for me? Money and stuff, acquisition and accumulation. Man, if I get enough, that'll be enough, right? But we find way back in the core of who we are this thought that says enough is never, ever quite enough. And for some people, it's competition. I gotta win. I gotta be bigger. I gotta be better. I gotta win at everything. And when I get enough trophies and I get that corner office and I destroy the competition, that's gonna be great. But when the ticker tape parade fades, you're still you. And Jesus stands alone amongst all worldviews and all religions and all of human history. See, because Jesus Christ, the Son of God, left his throne in heaven and he came to earth. He was born in a stable in a little town called Bethlehem. One of the names that was given to Jesus when he was born is Emmanuel. Emmanuel means God with us. Do you understand what that means? You don't have to reach for hope. Hope comes to you through Jesus. You don't have to reach for salvation. Salvation came to you. You don't have to reach for God. God comes to you. Hope has a name, and his name is Jesus. And I remember the first time that Jesus filled me with hope. It was the middle of the night, in the middle of January, in the middle of Red Deer, Alberta. Stop me if you've heard this one before. But I'm just going to keep telling it. Because I was at this point in my life where I thought that enough was enough. That, man, if I party hard enough, if I drink enough, if I fight enough, that'll be enough. And now I'm in the middle of the night in January in Red Deer. I'm walking with jeans and a t-shirt up the South Hill, and I'm all by myself. And I'm like, this ain't working. And I reached the end of myself. I reached the end of my hope.
And Jesus showed up right there on the South Hill. And he saved me. And he's saving me. And he loved me. And he loves me. And I think it's pretty important to state, because I could stand up here and go, oh man, like ever since the middle of the night, in the middle of January, in the middle of Red Deer, Alberta, hope, no problem ever. Not true. For me, over these last 2 years, there's been many, many times that I've come to this point where I'm running out of hope. And every time he's been faithful. He's shown up every single time. Sometimes it's a friend who knows exactly what to say. Sometimes I open up my Bible and I just read the exact right passage. But you know what it is most often? When I've been going through my life over these last 2 years, and there's this thought that starts to go through my head and starts to play around in my mind, and the thought is this: it's all over. 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 God shows up. And he speaks directly to my soul, and he says this: it's going to be okay. Because of Jesus, it's actually going to be okay. And I think more than anything else, on September 12th, 2021, that's what I just want you to know. See, Jesus stepped into human history, Emmanuel, God with us. And he died on a Roman cross. And because Jesus died, what it means is that we don't have to live our whole lives being defined by the regrets and the shame of our past. That when Jesus went to the cross, he carried my regret, he carried my shame, he carried my sins with him, and he put them to death. I don't have to carry them around with me anymore. And then he rose again. And because Jesus rose again, his invitation has always been the same. His invitation is this: come follow me. How do we move forward? There's only one way. There's only one way up. And that's to follow him. As he rose, we will too. And I want to say to you, directly to your soul today, it's going to be okay. Because of Jesus, it's going to be more than okay. To quote Dave Poole, who ripped off one of my expressions earlier in the video, I would say this: the best actually is yet to come. I'm going to put that picture up again. I find that picture pretty amazing. Put yourself in their place. No idea what's going to happen. The odds completely stacked against them. Down on their knees, saying, God, we can't move forward without you. And I know that I'm not a king or anything like that. But I thought for me today, if there's one thing that I would like to do on September the 12th, 2021, I would like to declare today a day of prayer. So why don't you stand and let's pray. September 12th, 2021. God, thank you for this day. Thank you for this moment that we're in right now. I pray that hope would rise, God. I pray that hope would rise. I pray that hope would rise in every man and every woman, in every family. I pray that hope would rise in this place, that this building would be more than a building, but a home for help. I pray that we would be a people who would be quick to extend a helping hand rather than raise an angry fist. I pray that we would be people of humility, God. A place where it's okay to not be okay. And I pray that you would continue to shape us into a people of generosity. God, I pray that this would be a place of acceptance, that we would be a people of acceptance. You don't have to believe like we believe to belong here, but that family would always trump feelings. And unconditional love would come to define us.
And finally, God, thank you for sending your son. Thank you for Jesus. Thank you that hope has a name. Hope has a name. And because of him, the best is yet to come. So as we continue to pray with all heads bowed and all eyes closed, I guess I just want to repeat what I said earlier. We don't have to reach for God. We don't have to reach for salvation. We don't have to reach for forgiveness. We don't have to reach for hope. Jesus did that. Jesus came and died and rose again. And because of that, all the work has been done. So what's our next step? Man, if you've never taken the time to accept that gift that Jesus purchased for you through his death and resurrection, man, what a great day. Whether you're watching online or in person, what a great day. What an incredible day. September 12th, 2021. You know that his love is perfect, right? God loves you right now. He doesn't love some past version of you before you messed up. He doesn't love some future version of you after you get all your stuff together. He loves you right here and right now. It's absolutely incredible. It's the best news that I could ever share with you. Everything that needed to be done has been done. Emmanuel, God came to you. But today I want to give you the opportunity. If today is the day you want to say, yes, Jesus, thank you. It's all been done for me. I receive it. I receive it. Whether you're watching online or you're in person right now, I just ask you with all heads bowed and all eyes closed. Can you just raise your hand? Because I want to pray for you right now. Nice and high if you don't mind. Amazing, 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 amazing. September 12th, 2021, big day, big day, big day. You can put your hands down. Let me pray. God, thank you. Thank you that you didn't wait for us to earn it, but you sent Jesus. So Jesus, I come to you right now and I ask that you would be my Savior, that you would forgive my sins. I lay down my baggage, I lay down my regrets, I lay down my shame, I move forward. Thank you. And today, Jesus, I pray that you would be my Lord. I want to follow you. Move forward today, tomorrow, and for eternity, knowing that because of you, the best is yet to come. Pray all this in your name. Amen. Amen. Hey, September 12th, 2021, I'm not going to forget it for a long, long time. I love you guys a lot. I'm going to go get some poutine now. Absolutely, for sure, unless it's sold out. Don't eat all the poutine and maybe even some rolled ice cream. I love you guys. We'll see you next week. Good job.